life? How do you handle such issues when you're at prime in life? That is when you start regretting that you wish you did not do those things. That's when you start regretting that you wish you did not do those things. But now you did them. There's no wishing that you not do. Now it's trying to make everything work. Can we take responsibility of all those things? Even as much as people will talk about it, we take responsibility of it. I will use a very good example of Paul in the Bible. Paul persecuted the church. He persecuted the church to the fullest. Persecuted the church to the fullest. And he was one guy who was given that mandate to go with the Jews, the law of the Jews, to go and destroy anything church, and destroy anything that belongs to Christ and all that. Wherever there's a church and people who call themselves the disciples of Christ, he was to go there and destroy them. Maybe jail some of them, and even martyr some of them. Some of them died as martyrs under the hands of Paul. And that is it. And when Paul gives his life, when he meets Christ, it's between him and Christ. Even the people who were along with Paul did not understand what Paul was going through. They just saw him down. They saw him talk, but they couldn't see whoever Paul was talking to. So they cannot go and say Paul met Christ. They will hear that story from Paul when Paul tells them, I met Christ. The person I was talking to was the very person that I was persecuting, because remember, when he goes down the voice from heaven, Jesus talks to him and tells him, Paul, why, Saul, why are you persecuting me? So Paul was not persecuting the people, he was persecuting Jesus, who is the church. Okay, amazing, my beautiful viewer. Welcome back to the Bush episodes with the best canopy, with the best background. That canopy over there looks beautiful. I know, looks beautiful. And these flowers over here, they look beautiful. Maybe this will be the last episode in the forest. I'm a Bush edition episode, the last one. Yeah, and the today's question will be, can we stay sane? Can we stay pure in our thoughts and everything that we're doing in our lives? Can we stay sane and pure in everything that we do and we say in our lives? Or it's just hard for us human beings to stay sane and pure in everything that we do in our lives? Can we stay pure and sane in everything that we do in our lives? The Bible says this, the flesh is always fighting, the flesh is always in battle with the spirit. The flesh is always in battle with the spirit. There is what the flesh wants to be accomplished and be fulfilled in the fleshly manner, and there is what the spirit wants to be accomplished and fulfilled in the spiritual manner. When you talk about this, I mean, there is what the body needs, there is requirements that the body needs, but again, if you don't give those things to the body won't die. And there is those that when you give to the body will. When you don't give to the body will die. So what are the basics of the flesh that the flesh needs for survival? One will be food. Two will be water. Good food, balanced diet. That's what I mean. Clean water. That's what I mean. Then the flesh also needs some clothing because of harsh weather conditions, or maybe polluted environments. Yep. With some shoes for polluted environments again, and all that. And then what does the flesh need? The flesh also needs a shelter, but that is not so, because there are people who don't have like shelters, and they are still surviving. But how long can they survive under such a conditions? They can't survive under such a condition for the longest. Like, there's no man who live underwater for the longest. So you need a better place for you to survive. And then yes, the flesh needs some pleasure. Yeah, that is people need to be together. Man and a woman need to be together for that and all that. So what are some of the things that the flesh doesn't need? There are some pleasures or some other things, the way you acquire them goes out completely. The way you acquire them, or the way you bring them your way, goes out completely. But because of the difficulties of life, we tend to do it either way. Not because we want it. We do it because we feel we should do it. Not because really we want it. We do it because we feel like we have to satisfy a given urge, or provide for a given deficiency in either our lives or the lives of other people. But particularly, it's providing for a given deficiency in our lives. I don't have a given thing, and I have to find that thing either way. So I have to use possible means. I have to use possible means to get what I want. Some of those means will be legal, but in terms of reputation, if they are known, your reputation will be destroyed. But they are legal. The government doesn't have anything against. Like there's no, like you won't be arrested by the law if you do those things. But if they get outside the people, again, it's against the morality of the given communities and all that. So if it goes against, if it gets to the public will judge you in terms of morality. But the government won't arrest you because there is no law that you have. There's no law that you have you've broken. So those are the things. So we either get it or we don't get it. But most of the time, people go get it because they need them. Like you've been pushed to a wall and you feel that there's nothing you can do to get anything. You've tried all other possible and moral means, to get what you want, and you fail to get it. Now what you do is, let me try to find another way to get it. I hear there's another way. If I do it, I'll get what I want. And this is what is really disturbing very many people, because there are very many secrets that are buried. If they are unburied, most of the people will not walk in the public with their faces high, or they not walk in the public with their faces with their faces open. They will have to hide themselves, or even never walk in the public again. And sometimes the things that we did when we never knew who we are, or we had a slight understanding of who we are. We had a very slight understanding of who we are, but we either way did them because we thought if we won't do them, it will be very hard for us to get out of this situation. And because the situation is really demanding that I should get myself food and shelter and all these other things, you feel like, let me just do whatever I can do to get whatever I want. And we are not forgetting about the future, but we are just hopeful that the grace of God will be sufficient for us in the future, that the things that we are doing will never ever come out in the public. And that is why I usually tell people, if you're getting yourself in such a thing, you rather do it alone. You rather do it alone. There's no secret for two people. There is no secret for two people. There is nothing like a secret for two people. The secret is only for one person. So if you're doing such a thing, you rather them do alone. Because you'll never ever, no one will ever bear witness of what you did when you are with them, because you'll never ever bear witness. It'll be between you and God. So when you go to God and ask him for grace and for mercies, he forgives you, and it ends between you and yourself. But the moment you involve another person into it, it becomes very tough for you to do what. Remember last time we were talking about decision making, and what we should look into when you're making decision. The most important thing is, what will it look like tomorrow when I take this action? How will it look like for me tomorrow when I take this action? That is the question that most people don't ask, or whenever they ask themselves this question, they don't really figure out the consequences of whatever they are doing if they do whatever they are doing and all that. And there's another one thing. It can be maybe people introduce you to something without you understanding, but I want you to know this. Wherever someone tells you, wherever someone does something that is it's not common, or it's not within the moral parameters, it's not within the moral parameters, and they're telling you just normal we are doing it, and to them they're used to doing it, don't do it, because they want to bait you. Once you do it, you become part of them. So the moment you want to leave them, they will say, we will use this against you, and we will tarnish and destroy your image in the public. What if, as we said earlier, there are things that we did when we were very young, when we never understood who we are, or our calling, or what we will become in life in future. And because there is a record of all those things, there's a record of all those things, or there are people who can bear witness that yes, we were there. There's no way we can outdo that. But now, how do you handle that when you're at that when you're at the prime in your life? How do you handle such issues when you're at prime in life? That is when you start regretting that you wish you did not do those things. That's when you start regretting that you wish you did not do those things. But now you did them. There's no wishing that you not do. Now it's trying to make everything work. Can we take responsibility of all those things? Even as much as people will talk about it, we take responsibility of all that stuff and try to bring the best out of it. One thing that most of the people do is, whenever they are coming out of that, they come clean. Or before they come out of that, they come clean, say, this is who I am, this is what I do. This is what I do. So they're trying to cover up the face that when someone says that he used to, he will say, but I talked about it. Well, yes, I've been vocal about that. That is who I used to be, but I'm no longer that person. I will use a very good example of Paul in the Bible. Paul persecuted the church. He persecuted the church to the fullest, persecuted the church to the fullest. And he was one guy who was given that mandate to go with the Jews, the law of the Jews, to go and destroy every anything church, and destroy anything that belongs to Christ and all that. Wherever there's a church and people who call themselves the disciples of Christ, he was to go there and destroy them, maybe jail some of them, and even martyr some of them. Some of them died as martyrs under the hands of Paul, and that is it. And when Paul gives his life, when he meets Christ, it's between him and Christ. Even the people who were along with Paul did not understand what Paul was going through. They just saw him down. They saw him talk, but they couldn't see whoever Paul was talking to. So they cannot go and say Paul met Christ. They will hear that story from Paul when Paul tells them, I met Christ. The person I was talking to was the very person that I was persecuting, because remember, when he goes down, the voice from heaven, Jesus talks to him and tells him, Paul, why, Saul, why are you persecuting me? So Paul was not persecuting the people, he was persecuting Jesus, who is the church. Okay, so that's just an example. So when Paul gets out of that, he goes to Ananias, but Ananias has a problem with welcoming, but because God has already spoken to Ananias, Ananias gets everything right. But to the fellow disciples, to other disciples who knew what Paul was doing, they ran away from this guy because they knew that this is the very person who used to do this. They never believed the story. They never believed the story that this guy had changed and had transformed. Now he's not on the other side, but he's on the side of the church. He's ready to suffer persecution in the church for the sake of Christ and for the sake of the church, for the sake of the very, 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 very gospel, the message of salvation, the message of the cross that he was against. And then after that, there was some things here, and Paul had to come clean and tell them everything and all that. And even when Paul is facing this Pharisees, Sadducees, the teachers of the law, these other guys and all that, he's trying to tell them that that is who he was like them, but he's no longer like them, because that is what Christ has made. Christ has changed him to become whoever he is. And from there people start understanding Paul. So the thing that we used to do sometimes will haunt you even to the age when you are on your prime, or in your prime, or yes, when everything is working well for you and you're getting everything you want. The question is, how will you deal with all these things later? How will you deal with all these things later? Will you come to acceptance and say, truly, this is what I was, this is who I was, I am no longer that person? And even as more people come in to say that I was with them in doing that thing, I know, yes, I was there. There are receipts to show that I was there and I was doing that. But I am no longer that person, because Christ has redeemed me from those things. I am no longer doing those things, and this is who I am. And I take responsibility if there are any responsibility to be taken over that. But by the grace of God, my reputation will be tarnished. My image will be tarnished, will be soiled up, because people will not believe. There are people who never understood this. There are people who never knew the magnitude of the thing that I used to do. But now they are in the public, that people know, people hear, people have understood it. I'm still taking responsibility and say, this is who I used to be. It is who I used to be, but I'm no longer that person, because you can now see that my ways have changed. There are those who will understand you that your ways have changed. There are those who will not understand that your ways have changed, and they still have a problem with you in whatever you're doing. I told you, under this tree kuna nyeshanga, but the canopy covers me and all that. So it's about to start raining. So that is what we have to do sometimes. Taking responsibility of what you used to do, because no one sent you in that. Or if you got yourself in that, it's good to come clean and say, people, I did not get myself. I unconsciously found myself doing it, because 1, 2, 3, 4 happened and I found myself in that. But again, I was part of it. But I am no longer part of it, because Christ has given me another life. I am no longer that person. I have received another life from Christ, and I am that person that Christ says, I am. And with that one, people will speak for some time, but when they realize, again, this guy is not the person that they said he used to be, that is his testimony, and we're using this testimony to say that it's truly God can change the lives of people. God can change the lives of people into the worst, from the worst to the best, from unruly to the most kind people and most loving people, to whatever situation you found yourself into, the good person that you're becoming in. How powerful is that story? Sometimes we would like to use other people's story to say how good God has been, how the power of God is working in the lives of people and changing and transforming other people's life. But we are not ready when our story is used, or our story is used to show how powerful God is and what God has done in our lives to change us from the people that we used to be, the bad people that we used to be, to the good people that we are. So look around whatever is happening. Look around whatever is happening. You realize what I'm trying to tell you. So it's a caution to us again. It's a caution to us again who are trying to become, or the young people who are trying to become the people that they want to be. It might be hard. It might be a very tough journey for you to get where you want to get yourself to. And at a given point, you'll be tempted to do things that you've never thought that you will do. At a given point, you'll be tempted to do things that you thought you'll never ever do. And you find yourself doing such a type of things. Do them knowing that at a given point, when you become that person that God wanted you to become, when you become that person that God wanted you to become, or God wants you to become, those things might come back to you. They might come to eat you back. And that might be just the devil trying to remind you of the things that you do, so that you can collapse. You can collapse, stop serving God, and go back to those things, because that is the image that people have given you. But know this, despite of all the people talking about all the things that you've done and all that, you need to come back to the reality and say, this is who I was, but God changed me, and I'll stick on the image that God has given me again, because I am now reborn again. I am born again. That is the purpose of being born again. I am reborn. I'm not that person that I used to be, but now I'm a very different person in God, bearing God's image in everything that I'm doing. Remember, God uses the worst. He calls the worst, and he uses them to proclaim his goodness and greatness and his mercies over each and every individual in this life. Mvua inakuja mingi sana. We'll do part 2 of this, but that's a lesson we've learned from some of the things that have been happening around. And to do this, help us to subscribe. Naona venye mvua inatunyeshianga tukitengeneza content. This is how it rains on us as we make this content banner. So subscribe, leave your comment, and ring the notification bell so that every time we pull up something of this kind, you'll be ready to take it up. Thank you. Love you. Until next time we meet. Bye-bye.